Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica on our continuing Halloween series where we take a look at some of my favorite horror games of all time. And today we're taking a look at Resident Evil 7. But as you will see, we are not playing this in the normal mode. I am playing this with the PSVR virtual reality headset. Because I will say, this game, without the VR, it's relatively scary, but it's nothing too crazy. But when you put a VR headset on, this game becomes absolutely terrifying, to the point where I only play it in about 30 to 45 minute bursts because it is so stress-inducing that I just don't want to keep playing it. The game itself is awesome. It's a really great imagining of what Resident Evil could be in first person, especially after Resident Evil 5 and 6 that kind of got rid of the horror elements. And you'll see there the game gives you a little preview of Jack walking past that, just kind of setting up the idea that where you're going is not a good place. But I do love the fact that the game opens up in this pure southern daylight. It doesn't instantaneously drop you off into the dark, and it kind of has that horror in the daylight aesthetic. You'll see all these deer legs here with these saw blades. You know what you're going into isn't good before you get there. And even looking down at the ground here, you have this dead raven. And I love how the game just kind of premeditates the horror that is to become. It doesn't want to throw you right into it, and especially in VR, you kind of get the ability to understand how the game navigates and how it feels and get your VR legs before you get into the house. Because once you get into the estate, this game just, it's horrifying in VR. I can't stress that enough. I am a little bit of a jumpy person, as my wife would say, but even still, in virtual reality, this game scares you in ways that the normal version just can't, especially if you're wearing a pair of headphones, really nice headphones, not the ones that come with the PSVR, but if you wear a nice over-the-ear set of headphones, the sounds where they're coming from, the bangs, it really makes you feel like you're in the game. And I would say that Resident Evil 7 does that better than pretty much any other horror VR game I've ever played. Being able to put your head out and look around corners and try to preemptively see what you might be coming up against is just a feeling of actually being in a haunted house or being in the location that the game portrays. And considering this game was so early in the PSVR's life cycle, it's extremely impressive what they were able to do. I would say on a VR motion sickness level, 45 minutes is about as much as I can take of this game with the smooth movement and kind of the jagged, jarring camera moves. If I keep the camera on smooth, the VR sickness comes in much quicker. But when you get into this kitchen here, all the lighting effects in VR, being able to freely look up and down and see what's around you, gives this game a layer that no other Resident Evil game has ever had before, and I really hope Resident Evil Village carries that over. And when these roaches come out, I really did shake my hand the first time I had seen it. Granted, I've played this before, so this is something I knew where the jump scares are coming, but if you've never gone into this, I will 100% say there's moments where you want to just rip that VR headset off your head and just completely say, screw it, I'm not playing anymore, it's too stressful, I'll come back to it next week. And that's the feeling that this game gave me of a horror game, is every time I thought about playing it, I had to ask myself, do I really want to have that stress right now? Which is something that no other Resident Evil game has ever given me. They're always fun, they're always challenging, they're always interesting, but this is the first game where I've said, do I really want to make myself have to go through that today? Because all these hallways are so dark, they're so foreboding, you don't know what's coming around the corner, and it feels like you're actually in the game, which just gives you this amazing level of stress that without the VR headset just isn't there. Now on the downside, the graphics do lose a little bit of something in VR. The PlayStation 4 I'm playing on the Pro can't keep up with the graphical fidelity of if you were just using a standard television, but that kind of blurriness and that graininess really actually go more towards building the virtual world that you're in. So I would say they've done a really good job with downgrading the graphics to work in VR, and at no point in time does the game really drop frames or do anything that would make you motion sick like that. But the lack of graphical fidelity with the headset on your face actually kind of drives home the point further of this dingy, dark aesthetic, this, dilapidated, haunted mansion in the South. And I think that the team at Capcom do an absolutely excellent job of being able to portray that feeling. The setting feels alive. Now, I will say the beginning of the game is probably, to me, the strongest when they're really setting the story up. It gives you a little bit of horror, and you see my head whip around there to that noise, and I forgot that was there, and it did, in fact, scare me. But as the game goes on further, a little bit more of the supernatural elements start coming in, and it becomes a little bit more camp horror than it does straight horror. And that's why, of all the areas I was able to pick to show in the game, I kind of wanted to show you guys the opening one, not to spoil anything if you haven't played the game, but at this point most people probably have. but two, just to really tie in the fact that Capcom and the Resident Evil team went straight horror on this after getting the complaints, from Resident Evil 5 and 6 that it kind of became an action game with slight horror elements versus an actual horror game. But what you do is I'm going to let you watch this little VHS tape here. It's really interesting and it is short, kind of sets the story up. You can get a little sense of the soundtrack, a little bit of the sense of the effects, and I'll be back in just a minute. We'll continue on the video, but this one is a lot longer than usual, so sit tight, enjoy it, and I'll be right back.
This new guy? I'm not feeling it. Again? Just don't be surprised if we have to make a change. What's the story, Andre?
Abandoned farmhouse, missing family, foul play suspected. The usual.
How long did you say this place has been abandoned?
3 years.
Clancy, get a shot of this. Let's make a great cutaway. What the hell? You gotta be fucking kidding me. All right, new deal. We find Andre and we go. I mean, fuck this show. You first. Need a nice hero shot of me coming down the ladder. So, you first. What do you see? What is it?
Poor Andre's having a very bad day today. But this is just setting up what you're going to be experiencing in Resident Evil 7. It is just straight horror. It's got that 70s, 80s aesthetic to it in that kind of southern gothic mansion, and I really do love that. And if you did play the VR demo when it came out on the PlayStation Store, that tape was kind of the first taste of the game. And I do like that these VHS tapes actually let you play what amounts to different levels in the game. What it really does is allow you to just kind of experience something that happened in the past to give you information of what you need to do now, such as knowing that that handle is in the fireplace and allowing you to open up this trapdoor. And when I first played this, knowing what was at the bottom of those stairs, I did not want to go down because the game just showed us death is down there. Whatever is down that hole, you don't want to see. And then it effectively makes you go back down to the place where you just saw somebody murdered in. And I think that's a great example of, visual storytelling in horror, is that it tells you this place isn't safe, someone has died down there, and now that you know that, we are going to make you go exactly to the place that you don't want to go in the entire house. And at this point in time, Ethan could just turn around and F off and leave, but obviously his wife, who's been missing for 3 years, is in this house, so they've given him enough motivation to want to know what's going on and find her. And in VR, this corner peeking, it's just something that other games cannot replicate. And that's what I love so much about virtual reality, not just in the horror genre, but in pretty much all genres of gaming. It gives us an extra layer of immersiveness and making you feel like you're there, and it's just something that I've really been enjoying about VR, and I think that the horror genre does a great job of using it, because even if you could look around a corner in a game on your television, that immersion isn't there. You can still see your walls, you can still see your table, however your setup is. And right here, very quickly, Andre's having an even worse day today than he was when he got the pipe through his mouth. And it just kind of ties that tape back together, but all the graphics in this game are amazing, all the lighting, these posters of missing people on the wall, and you just see that one little hanging fluorescent light to the door. It does a really good job of kind of keystoning where you need to go next visually. You see those lights, the door has a different color, there's always something in the distance that you can look at, and in VR, with the flashlight attached to Ethan it somewhere, but really mechanically it's attached to your headset in the way you look around. It shows you just enough to let you know how to navigate, but it leaves so much in the dark that you really don't know what you're going to be encountering next. And even here with those cell bars, with the lights coming through it, the designers at Capcom did an amazing job with lighting, being able to really just telegraph what's next, what you might want to look at, what could be dangerous. And I think that's an awesome job. I'm going to let you listen to what Mia says here, give you a little more story, and I'll come back in just a second, though.
Contacted me.
No, I wouldn't. Did I? Did anyone see you? Did he see you?
Hey, who else is here? What the hell's going on?
Daddy's coming. We need to go.
Daddy?
We need to go now!
So clearly the game is giving you a little bit of breadcrumbs story-wise, and it does unfold relatively slowly for a Resident Evil game, and I do appreciate that. When you go into the game, you don't exactly know what's going on, and this is such a large departure from all the Resident Evil games that came before it. Capcom didn't decide to beat you over the head immediately with the entire story to get you to understand what's going on. You know that your wife, Me, is here. You know something weird is going on, but you don't really understand the basics of it, the facts. Everything is a little bit vague. As the story goes on, you're going to learn more. But just like a good horror movie, with a villain who has a backstory, they're going to slowly give you a little drip feed of facts and information for you to be able to understand what's going on, but it does allow your mind to be able to fill in some of the blanks before you have the information. And as I've said in previous videos, I think a lot of times when your own imagination fills in the blanks, it is more terrifying than what the story is actually telling you, because each and every one of us have our own fears, and we bring our imagination in and imagine the thing that would be most scary to us versus what the game thinks is the scariest. And I do appreciate that the designers at Capcom give you that range and that freedom to be able to sort of imagine what's coming next in the story or in the house before you actually know it, because it causes your stress and anxiety levels to go up when you're playing before you've even encountered what's going on. I mean, this room right here, I didn't want to go into it. I didn't know why I didn't want to go in, and nothing in the room itself was scary, but the fact that I don't know what's around that corner and I feel like I'm actually in this house just becomes terrifying. And that's why I wanted to make this the longest episode, of this Halloween series, talking about all these different horror games, is that this is one of the best horror experiences I've played probably in the last 10 years. It's by no means a perfect game, and in VR, there is some clunkiness because you are playing with a controller, but you see Ethan's hands, on the screen. It would have been better if it maybe used the Move controller, or if it came to PC, using some of those hand controls, because that is a little bit of a sticking point for me, is that your hands in the game don't really tie to the feeling of your hands in the real world, and that does take a little bit of immersion out. But as I'm walking down this hallway and I can't see where I'm going and I see this dark, dingy bathroom, that sense of foreboding, the anxiety-inducing things here, all the filth, all the dirt, I can almost really do imagine myself having been in a place like this. And that is the highest compliment I can play to this game, is that when I take the headset off and I see my living room and it's bright and it's nice and it feels safe, it takes me a minute or two to adjust to realize that I wasn't actually in this dark, dingy murder mansion. I'm actually in my living room just hanging out. And I will say that going down these stairs is not very fun. But I'll be quiet for a second and let you know why. And you will hear there that they brought the audio up slightly before Mia jumps out, and that's a common filmmaking technique where you're trying to signal to your audience before the scare actually happens that it's coming. Now I wish Capcom had just leaned in and let us linger in that horror and not heard it happening beforehand, but dear God, Ethan's poor hand. I can only imagine the pain of putting a butcher knife through your hand like that, and it's just this visceral noise, and you can hear that slashing of the meat and trying to fight back. And it really just, the sound makes it feel like it's actually there, especially when you're wearing headphones, and just imagining holding a sharp knife as it cuts through the flesh of your palm, trying to keep it from jabbing into your eye or into your head. It's just horrifying, and it's stomach turning, and it really did give me a physical feeling when I was first playing the game. But this is extra gross with the sounds, so enjoy it. I'll be back in 10 seconds to finish the video up.
Leave me alone! I've been bad. I deserve this.
Oh, that sound of her head just smashing into the wall. It sounds both wet and hard at the same time, like a bloody sponge wrapped around a rock as a side effect. I've never heard anybody smash their head into a wall, but if I had, I would imagine it sounds just like that. And that's the highest compliment I can pay to the game, is that I do now feel like I know what it's like for somebody to smash their head into the wall till they knock themselves out. This game is so incredibly immersive that it really does feel like you were in the house with these people fighting for your life. All the sound design, all the visuals, the head movement, everything really just makes it feel like you were there, and that is an incredible experience, and that's why VR is so great, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the future with the platform, because without VR, this game is good. With VR, this game is absolutely an incredible experience and one that you have to experience. And as you put this axe into Mia's neck, I've never put an axe into somebody's neck in real life, and I hope you haven't either, but the sounds and the sights make it feel like I really actually did it. But I cannot recommend this game highly enough. Play it in VR if you can. It is 100% worth the purchase price of a PSVR if you don't have one. You can find them pretty cheap now, but definitely 100% I recommend you play this game and you play it in virtual reality, because it's like something you've never experienced before. But short of that, that was Resident Evil 7 in VR. Do us a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. It takes a lot of time and energy to make these, and it's really hard to do captures in VR and monitor them with a giant screen strapped to your neck. So we really appreciate that like and subscribe. We hope you're having a great Halloween season, and we will be back with more horror episodes on every Tuesday. And we got videos on Friday and Sunday as well, but I wonder who's at the other end of that phone. If you've never played, you probably should, and you can find out. Bye-bye.